Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're taking a completely impartial, comprehensive look at the life of Donald Trump. We're going to trace this really incredible journey, all the way from his upbringing in Queens, New York, straight to the global political stage. Whether you know him best as a real estate mogul building Trump Tower, the reality television star of The Apprentice, or the 45th President of the United States, there's absolutely no denying that his life story is packed with some major, fascinating shifts. So, let's jump right into it.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. First, roots and early years. Second, building a real estate empire. Third, family, marriages, and children. Fourth, television and global brand. Fifth, the 45th president. And finally, number 6, post-presidency and future. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Roots and Early Years.
So, we start at the very beginning. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946, in Queens, New York. He was the fourth of 5 children, and he grew up in a wealthy but really strictly disciplined household. His father, Fred Trump, was a highly successful home builder in the outer boroughs of the city, and a Scottish mother, Mary, made sure that despite their wealth, the value of hard work was front and center. A huge takeaway here is that growing up in Queens, literally just looking across the river at the elites in Manhattan, that dynamic deeply fueled his lifelong ambition to conquer that iconic New York City skyline.
Now, his parents heavily shaped his education. When he was a teenager, his father actually sent him to the New York Military Academy specifically to instill strict discipline. From there, he went on to attend Fordham University for a couple of years before transferring over to the prestigious Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. He officially graduated from there with an economics degree in 1968.
Moving right along to Section 2, building a real estate empire. After finishing school, he went straight to work for his father's business, the Trump Organization. But here's the thing. He didn't just inherit the company and keep doing what his dad did. He completely pivoted its vision. He moved away from practical housing and set his sights entirely on Manhattan luxury. In the 1970s, he took the struggling Commodore Hotel and transformed it into the glittering Grand Hyatt. And then, by 1983, he completed Trump Tower. This massive luxury skyscraper permanently stamped his name in giant gold letters right onto the New York skyline. Fast forward to 1990, and his ambitions had completely outgrown New York. He expanded down into the casino hub of Atlantic City and opened the Trump Taj Mahal. To put the scale of that into perspective, at the time of its debut, it was literally the largest casino in the entire world.
But, his rise definitely wasn't a straight, smooth line. The 1990s brought some severe financial turbulence. A number of his casinos and hotels started losing money, which resulted in some massive debt owed to the banks. Yet, if there's a defining characteristic of this era for him, it was his refusal to fold. He relentlessly navigated those financial hurdles, worked incredibly hard to restructure his debt, and ultimately saved his empire.
That brings us to Section 3, Family, Marriages, and Children.
You can't really talk about Donald Trump without looking at his personal life, because it has frequently been the focus of intense public and media attention. He's had 3 high-profile marriages. In 1977, he married Ivana, a model from Czechoslovakia who actually helped him quite a bit with his business until they divorced in 1992. Then, in 1993, he married actress Marla Maples, and that marriage lasted until 1999. Finally, in 2005, he married his current wife, Melania, who is a model from Slovenia.
And his 5 children are deeply, deeply intertwined with his professional and political life. With Ivana, he had Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. Donald Jr. and Eric became central figures in running the Trump business, while Ivanka famously served as a presidential advisor. With Marla Maples, he had Tiffany, who went on to study law. And with Melania, he has his youngest son, Barron, who is currently a student.
Okay, moving into Section 4, Television and Global Brand.
So, while he was definitely a frequent fixture in the 90s tabloids, everything shifted gears in 2004. That's when he began hosting the reality TV hit, The Apprentice. Millions of people tuned in every single week just to watch him deliver his famous catchphrase, "You're fired." But this wasn't just mindless entertainment. It was a real game changer because it cemented his public image as the ultimate, decisive boss. And that image would become a massive asset for him down the road.
He aggressively leveraged this newfound television fame to turn his very name into a global lifestyle brand. The Trump Organization expanded internationally.
Suddenly, the Trump name was being stamped on luxury hotels, casinos, worldwide towers, and some of the most exclusive international golf courses. He was no longer just a New York developer. He was a globally recognized brand name.
Which perfectly sets the stage for Section 5, the 45th president.
Now, he had floated the idea of running for president in the past, but in 2015, he finally made the leap. Despite having absolutely zero prior political experience, he ran this incredibly confident campaign centered around one core promise: to make America great again. Against pretty much all traditional political expectations, he defeated former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in 2016. He won the Electoral College and officially became the 45th president of the United States.
Let's break down his time in office. During his term from 2017 to 2021, his administration focused heavily on 5 distinct pillars. First, the economy, where he prioritized lowering corporate taxes to stimulate business growth. Second, immigration, driven by his central promise to build a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. Third, foreign relations, where he made some highly unconventional moves, like meeting face-to-face with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Fourth, healthcare, with attempts to overhaul the insurance system. And finally, his term was marked by intense political division, culminating in his impeachment by the House in 2019. However, he was acquitted by the Senate and remained in office.
In 2020, he ran for a second term but lost to Joe Biden. Following those results, Trump and his supporters maintained claims that the election was unfair. Despite there being no evidence to support this, it led to a deeply contentious, highly polarized post-election period across the entire country. Those tense final months came to a head on January 6, 2021. A riot broke out at the U.S. Capitol, with individuals actually attempting to stop Congress from counting the electoral votes. Shortly after that, on January 20th, Donald Trump left the White House, notably making the unprecedented choice to skip the inauguration ceremony of his successor.
And finally, Section 6, Post-Presidency and Future.
So what happens after you leave the highest office in the land? Well, he transitioned right back to his business life, returning to the Trump Organization to manage his properties around the globe. But unlike most former presidents who kind of quietly step away from the limelight, he maintained a massive, enduring influence over his political base. He essentially wrote a whole new playbook for what a post-presidency looks like, continuing to shape the political landscape from the outside.
Which brings us right up to today. With his global businesses continuing to run and constant talks among his supporters about a 2024 presidential run, we're left looking at a man defined by his absolute refusal to give up on his ambitions. From a wealthy upbringing in Queens to conquering the Manhattan skyline, dominating reality TV, and eventually leading the country, what do you think the next chapter holds for this constantly evolving figure? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the history that shapes our world today. See you next time.